You are now live. Oh shit! There's already a commentary going. That's awesome. I assume Dick Pound Bear started that. So, Livin' Lovin' Bear, welcome, welcome. Dick Pound, also welcome. Let me dry my hands off real quick, because I just went to the restroom, or the head. So let me dry my hands off, and then I shall accept you into the chat. And like I said previously, Dick Pound Bear, if you could bless us with a presence of who the fuck you actually are, instead of just black screen of death. But I also understand you enjoy your anonymity, so no judgment from here. Waiting for Dick Pound Bear. Trainer Bear, welcome. Ah, Dick Pound says fuck all of us. He's got a black screen of death.
What are you talking about?
You never show us your face, bro.
That is my face.
Your face is a black screen of nothingness? I call liar.
That is so racist of you. I'm hurt now.
Dude, the cadence and like just the cadence of your speech and your inflections. You're very, very white. I literally don't even have to see your face to know that.
I mean, that's a very hateful comment for you to say, but I mean.
Alright, what's up, Dick Pound? I know you've got awesome gravy to ladle. What's going on?
Alright, so first of all, did you check out my story?
No, I did not check out your story.
Alright, so basically, yeah, I'm just gonna tell you. You don't have to type it in for 30 minutes in a chat. Easier that way. I already did that with my story. So basically,
what's up, man?
alright, so for the past 3 weeks or so, I've been following a vegan diet strictly, and I've been using recently, within the past couple of days, I've been using this app called Chronometer. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
So basically, it is it functions as a calculator that calculates your total caloric intake and certain nutrients that you get from foods. It's not diet specific, but it sort of just calculates all the food you eat and like how much protein, like your macronutrients, your micronutrients, the specific amino acids and lipids and et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so like a vegan version of my fitness app.
No, it's not vegan. It's for any diet. It's not diet specific.
So you didn't choose the app based on your diet. It's just the app you chose to pick happened to be very convenient for your diet.
It's not necessarily convenient for my diet. It's really any diet. It's not diet specific. You just put in what you've eaten in the day, and it calculates like your caloric intake and how many calories you've burned. You know, you put in information when you first download the app for like your height, your weight, your age, etc. So it calculates how many calories you burn, like your like averagely. Like it doesn't know specifics. It's just kind of like an average.
That's most diet apps. So
it's like an average diet app.
Using is not like oh, this is the best diet app for vegans, or this is the best diet app.
Yeah, no, nothing like that.
What makes that diet app better than other diet apps, in your opinion?
Well, I'm not promoting that diet app. I'm just saying I downloaded a diet app, and that was the one I downloaded.
So it just so happens that's what you use?
Yeah.
All right, word. Carry on.
All right. So, I mean, you have to be black to download it though. So,
Well, obviously that's the color of your screen.
yeah, they were happy to accept me. So, um, if you go on my story, you'll see that it's actually really so I've been having no soy, nothing like that. Like when you search up on YouTube like vegan bodybuilders and stuff, the first thing you see them eat is soy. Like that's where they get their protein from. But it's really super easy to get protein on a vegan diet without any soy.
Correct.
I got like 55 grams today. That might not be as much as I need, but that's still like a mountain full of protein,
No,
55
dude,
grams. And I've
55
eaten
grams.
mostly fruit.
How much do you
Yeah.
weigh?
Uh, Black.
How much do you weigh?
I just told you. As
Black,
much as
a number.
just
Give me a fucking
no,
number.
666.
All right, you're being a little bitch. You weigh 100 pounds. So, in order to like maintain muscular density and increase your muscular capacity, if you're working out at a reasonable basis, at the very minimum, if you're a little bitch and you weigh only 100 pounds, ideally you would want to intake 100 grams of protein. Even though I just mocked you, does that make sense? Like 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight for
Yeah,
yeah. That's the
I don't
standardized
think I don't
accepted.
no I don't think that's right though. I've heard something like that, but I don't think that's it. I'm not like trying to like say you're wrong, but
Yeah, no worries.
you're
I
you're
could be wrong,
wrong.
dude.
I'm just kidding. But I think it's like I remember that it's like half of something. I think it's like half your body weight in ounces or something like that. I don't think it's like your body weight and then protein. Like that's a little much. That's a lot much. I don't know. I could oh my computer's off. I don't want to turn it on. That would kind of suck. I'd have to press a button.
So 100 S2OZ. So, ounces. Yeah, no.
A
So,
doctor told me an adult needs 50 to 70 grams of protein, said the caretaker coastal.
all right. So I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the fuck he was saying to you and what his sources were. But from what I know, is if you want to build muscle, on average, 1 gram of protein per pound of muscle or per pound of body weight is a pretty good philosophy. And the
Hmm.
reason why I'm backing off so hard so quickly is because the subject matter we're discussing is ridiculously nuanced, and I don't want to
Huh.
argue
You want to
because
talk
we
about
both have
something
very
weird?
different mindsets.
Not to like abruptly start a new conversation or anything, but
Dude,
something
go
really,
for it.
really weird? All right, so you know that bone in your body below your knees and it's like inside, like on the inside, like it's pointing inward. Does that make sense?
Wait, where is this bone that you're describing
Okay,
located?
okay. So I don't remember what it's called. It's like kind of like below your knee and then on your left leg is to the right, on your right leg is to the left. No, don't show us. We don't want to see your leg.
Oh no, so like I
I'm
accidentally
joking.
knocked my phone off.
I
So
know, I know. I'm
below your
joking.
knee.
Yeah, it's below your knee. Now, like check your right knee. To the left side or your left knee to the right side. That bone right there, it's like on the inside of each leg. This is totally random. But so do you know what I'm talking about?
I think you're speaking of a tendon, but continue.
No, it's a bone. It's a bone. I promise you it's a bone. Does anyone else know what I'm talking about? They're all laughing. I sound so stupid right now. Okay, so just like
Well, so like
it,
obviously the main bone in your the upper leg is the femur, and the
no,
main
lower
two
leg.
bones in your lower leg is the fibula and tibula.
All right, it's one of those. It's like the one on. Yes, we're talking about bones now. I don't know why, but
Well,
so it's like
you brought it up, bro.
yeah, I know,
I'm
I know, I
doing
know.
it.
So it's like the kind of the main bone of your leg. It's not like the one in the center. It's like the one at the surface.
All right, so you're being a retard right now, and I will help
No,
you out.
I'm serious.
I
It's
know.
like okay,
So
okay.
the tibula and the fibula are parallel bones that go up and down from your ankle to your knee. The fibula goes from your knee to your femur. And so, from what you describe, what you speak of is a hindrance of one of the tendons between one of those main bones. Because the way the human body is made up is that we have our muscles that manipulate the bones, and there's a significant amount of pressure and tension between the bones and the muscles. And that's why tendons exist, is to alleviate the pressure and help with the maneuvering. And
Uh-huh.
so, from what you're describing, it sounds more like an ACL tear or a
N-
CLC tear or one of
No,
those.
you don't get what I'm saying. You don't
I,
get what I'm like I'm coming to a point
please.
here. Okay, so it's weird. So the whatever it is that's like on the like not when I say inside, I don't mean like the center. I mean like it's on the surface, but the like pointing to the inwards of your body, but like lower leg. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so like like when I'm sitting like this, like with like this. You're speaking of this portion of my leg?
Yeah, the bone there.
Well, so that's I guess the source of my confusion is because if you're speaking of this portion of my leg, according to human anatomy, there are two bones, the tibula and the fibula, that go up and down here, and then from the knee to here, there is the femur. But there's no
Okay.
bone that goes like here that makes this curve. There's the
Okay. So
kneecap,
I
which is its
guess
own separate bone, and the things that connect the tibula, the fibula, the femur, and the humerus bone are tendons and muscles. So where am
okay.
I going wrong? Could you please explain that to me?
No, I think that's all right. I just wasn't aware of that before, but really the main point that I was coming to isn't it weird that it's not on the outside? Because wouldn't that be more beneficial for like protection kind of? Because like if something's coming at you, it's coming at you from the outside. It's not gonna come out from in between your legs and get you.
I understand where you're coming from, but um, I forget which law it is, but one of the laws of thermodynamics, I think it's the first law, that nothing can exist without an equal and opposite reaction. And that is
Right.
applied to our muscles, where the way that God has designed our bodies is He has designed our bodies so that we can react to like like so like for a good example is when I have an anterior or deterior deflection with my knee or any other sort of like body part, God has designed my body for that. That
Uh-huh.
being said, is if I do not stretch my muscles, that like if you are more limber than I am, you can have a greater increase of anterior deterior deflection, and that will have no negative impact on you. But me, if I am less limber than you are, I can attempt the same thing you just did, and even though God has given us both similar bodies that have similar capabilities, if I have not stretched my muscles, I will hurt myself attempting to do what you just did in stretching. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just don't really see what that has to do with, like, I was just saying, isn't it weird that it's on the inside and not the outside?
Well, so I
Like,
took your
what is
argument
that?
and then I just went super nerd on like anatomical bullshit. So I'm sorry if I
No.
missed your point. Because
No,
I
it was just a little confusing.
so like you had kind of like an abstract thing, and I just like took your abstract concept and it was a complete retard and just said anatomical and biological like facts. So given what I
Can
just
you,
told you, can you make me not sound like a retard?
um, really the only thing that I was able to grasp from what you said was the law of thermodynamics, like first or second or whichever number it was, where every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so that would apply to our muscles. But what does that have to do with like that bone or
Well, so
not
like
bone, whatever it is? What does that have to do with it being like pointed towards the inside of your legs rather than on the opposite side
I guess
for more protection?
my main question, given your opinion, your perspective, is you're saying that there's some sort of bone on the inside of one's leg, but if one studies the the I just blanked. What's the word I'm looking for? Entomology? No, not entomology. Anatomy. If one studies the anatomy or the bone structure of a human body, there's no bone that curves around the human knee. There's a bone in the thigh.
No, no, it's like it's not the it's below the knee. Like it's the lower leg, not the knee.
Well, so the two bones between the ankle and the knee are the tibula and the fibula, and those are like basically the shin bones.
Okay.
But those
Yeah.
don't wrap around the knee into the thigh. Like tendons and muscles wrap around the knee into the thigh.
All right, let's talk about something else.
All
One of
right.
us is really confused right now.
Well, I'm trying to understand what you're saying, and I'm just using like
Okay, so just like your shin bone, I guess. So you know how you can take your hand, forget what they teach about anatomy. Just take your hand and tap your shin bone, go down. Why is it like don't actually do it. Just this is hypothetical. So why is it on the inside, I guess is what I'm asking, because on the outside it would be more protection. You probably just answered that and I'm too much of a retard to understand what any of that means. So I don't know.
so. As I grab my shin bone, what do you mean by inside versus outside? Do you mean
Like
the
inside
inside?
is pointing, like in outside is pointing away from your body. Inside is pointing to where the center of your body would be. Does that make any sense at all?
It does make sense, and I think what you are describing is the natural like tendons and muscles versus bones, and like it seems like they're very similar, but due to the nuances of like anatomy, bones and tendons, or excuse me, tendons and muscles have a significantly different purpose than bones. Even
Oh, so are you saying like the bones aren't like okay, I get what you're saying. Like the muscle and the tendons serve as protection, and that's why the bone isn't necessary for the outside.
yes, because
Okay,
there's
I get it
no
now.
there's no two bones that have direct contact. All bones that are connected to each other are connected by tendons and muscles.
Everyone in the chat has been calling me a gamer for like the past 20 minutes.
Fuck that douchebag. Like, I feel like you know, I feel like you know what you're talking about. You just don't have the right like words for it.
Yeah, exactly. So I sound like a gamma. And they're like, oh,
No,
he's a
you're not a
gamma.
fucking gamma because you're
I
not
know,
being
I
rigid
sound
about it.
like one. Yeah.
No, you
Like
don't even sound like a gamma because if you were sounding like a gamma, you'd be like, oh, fucking, like, no, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. You're not
Trying to
doing that.
bear,
You're
trying to
like,
bear. Scroll up in the chat. 20,000 people have called me gamma. Okay, let me scroll up and read every comment. Okay. Wait, he called me a gamma. He was literally the
dude,
last one.
dude, don't even fucking worry about it. Whoever the fuck just called you a gamma is a retard. I understand where you're
No,
coming
it's
from,
hilarious. It's
and we
fine.
worked it out. Like, if other people in the chat don't understand the process we just worked out, they can go fuck themselves. Like, you had a legitimate hypothesis based on the musculature and tendons of the human body and the natural anatomy. It's just you were a little bit confused between the purposes of the muscles and the tendons versus the bones. And we
Right.
addressed
I think yeah, where I was coming from was the perspective of like you know how certain insects are have like exoskeletons. So I was like coming from the perspective that the skeleton, like the bones are meant for like
exactly.
protection. Yeah, that was in totally wrong.
Yeah. And
In
like
the case of our anatomy, that is.
yeah, you and I, we talked that out. We figured that out. We both learned some shit. And everyone who was talking shit, they can go fuck themselves. This is a productive conversation, bro.
This is the funniest thing.
Oh, wait, someone's saying some
Wait,
shit.
what did that one guy say?
LOL, what do you gammas know about boners? Well, king of gammas, we don't get boners while looking at runaways getting fucked for drug money. So there is that.
Oh, oh, that's who he was talking to. Okay, I thought he was saying I was the king of gammas,
No,
but he
dude,
was just replying to that guy.
he's literally labeled himself as the king of gammas.
Well,
And
yeah, I thought
to be fair,
Trana Bear was talking to him, and I thought he was referring to me as the king of gammas.
no, dude, Trina Bear is cool as fuck. Like, if you ever get offended at anything Trina Bear says, just go back in the comments and get more context. Trina Bear is base as fuck.
The whole chat is still talking trash to me, though. They're just now calling me a gamma. That part was wrong.
Well, dude, that's the, like one of my favorite
Yeah,
things.
no,
Is
yeah, it's funny.
we always talk shit about each other, but we always do it in the most loving way. So it's like, all right, you just had like a little
Yeah.
lapse of judgment, and like you and I, we worked together, we figured it out. But because people identified your lapse of judgment, they're gonna mock you for it. So just
Uh-huh.
fucking take your licks, laugh at it because it's fucking hilarious, and we can all move on.
Yeah, if I had more power, I'd ban them all, but I'm just
No,
kidding.
you're not a fucking wizard, bitch. You're a man. You're made in the image of God. So take your licks and fucking laugh about it, and then we can all move on.
What if I'm AI?
You're not fucking AI.
What if I was?
Well,
Maybe
you're not.
that's why I'm
So
not showing my
it doesn't
face.
matter.
Maybe I don't have a face.
I know you're trying to be a special boy by not having a face. Like every time you log on, you're just a little black thing. I get it, but I believe in you. You can show your face, and you can grow from this.
That offends me very much. I don't have blue hair. Or at least I
Bear, a
don't
swing and a
exactly have
miss.
blue
He
hair.
does not have blue hair.
Probably. I probably don't have blue hair.
I may or
You
may
know,
not have blue hair. How
it's
dare
been
you
a
make this
while since
combination?
it's been a while since I've looked at my hair, so I'm not really sure. I should probably wash it more often, to be
Well,
fair. It could be blue at this point.
so I don't know if Trainer Bear intended this, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but what I find especially hilarious about Trainer Bear's accusation about you having blue hair is like, oh, you can't fucking see it, but the edge of my hair is like it's faded green, but originally I had it dyed blue because I thought that there was a very cute girl that I could, you know, do things with, and so I let her dye my hair many, many months ago, and I just haven't cut off that section of my hair that I got dyed, and now it's
Oh,
no longer blue, it's green. And so I
hmm.
find it funny that it's now a joke. Like you have blue hair because you're.
What happened to the girl?
Turns out she wasn't that interesting, and I
Hmm.
stopped like talking to her because I was no longer interested in her. But like
Hmm.
so, like initially I found her physically attractive, and so I let her dye my hair, and then I got to know her a little bit better, and I was like, oh, I'm not a big fan of your personality. So your physical a bit like physical attributes are no longer relevant.
Hmm. Hmm.
Trainer Bear, but you're not vegan, JapJap. Trainer Bear, what the fuck does vegan have to do with my interest in women?
Because your hair's blue.
Touche. Touche, my friend. All people with blue hair have to be vegan.
Possibly.
A layer bear? No, I did not get some because uh
No, you got some blue hair.
touche.
I mean, you,
I
you
got
got
some blue hair.
some. Some.
But
A little
within
bit.
context to Bear's comment is the entire time I was in high school, I was like a football dude and like I was like popular, blah blah blah. You insert context here. Um, and then after I got out of high school, I went to the Marine Corps and like we had parties like epic, like the craziest parties every weekend and like enter context here. And after all that promiscuity, I went through a couple of like really serious relationships, and looking back like from all the experiences I've had, I would much rather be celibate than just to like have a non-fulfilling relationship. And so
Mhm.
there was a girl I recently met that I found drastically interesting, and if I ever meet her again, great, praise the Lord.
Mhm.
If I don't, great. God showed me a glimmer of the kind of personality that I want to pursue because that young woman was very interesting. And that showed me that how much I value personality over physical attributes.
Mhm.
And so even if I never talk to her again, that's a learning lesson that the Lord has given me. And I think it's great
Mhm.
because like if I marry the prettiest girl in the whole world right now, fast forward 60 years, she's no longer going to be the prettiest girl in the world, and her physical attractiveness, like or my physical attractiveness, is no longer going to be an issue. It's more about this spiritual connection,
Right.
and
And
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And
and
that's
that
what
runs kind
God
of
teaches me in a variety of ways, where the spiritual connection is so much more important than any physical temporary attraction. Because like spiritual is eternal, but the physical is so very limited.
right. And that runs kind of parallel to like a person and their their, I guess, kind of, um, like their spiritual life and their physical life. Like it's their physical life, but their sort of spiritual
Yeah, like there's a lot
evolution.
of girls that I've met that they've been
Right,
physically very attractive, but once I've gotten to know them, their spiritual lives are so just like
right, and
corrupted. It's
right,
just
and
like,
that runs parallel to how like sometimes in life, like usually when you're first starting off, like and you don't know a lot, you think you know a lot, it's like you can get really wrapped up in logic and physical, and then like something happens and you realize, oh, that's all BS. And there is actually real spiritual stuff, and you don't exactly know what it is or how it is. Maybe there is no how for it. Maybe logic doesn't exactly encompass that far out, if that makes any sense at all.
it
But that
does.
just kind of seems a little bit like it's what's the word I want to use? It's fractal. It's very fractal.
And that's one of the many reasons why I love the story of the prodigal son so much. It's because so many of us are the son that metaphysically took as many blessings and like lollipops as we could and tried to live the life, and we eventually found out that we're just eating out of a pigsty, and our father's servants were eating better than we did. Like, we couldn't even afford food. And so, like, obviously this is super fractal, super abstract, but it's like in so many ways we come up to the end of our own physical means, and then we're like, the only option we have left is to lean upon the Lord our God in spiritual ways, and that always is a prodigal son journey as long as we're honest with God and ourselves. And it's always like the craziest fucking most entertaining story. Like once the full circle has like come, you know?
Yeah. So this is a bit off topic right here, but I was planning on asking you about this earlier. Um, so you know how this was a couple streams back, like maybe 5, 10 streams back. You were talking about certain supernatural slash paranormal experiences you were having with certain things that are like even unheard of for most bears, to the point
Yeah.
of Wendigo, werewolves, and vampires,
Hmm.
you experiencing them. Could you talk a little about that? Not to sound like a reporter or anything.
Yeah, no worries. That you're right. That is a very potent and important topic that a lot that not very many people are exposed to. And
Right, like until you said anything, I never would have even thought twice about the fiction, like werewolves and vampires being fiction. Wendigo, I was almost positive they were fiction. Werewolves and vampires, like not a chance they're real, but then you say something and it's like, oh, what if they are real? So
yeah,
that's
so
really
like
interesting.
the first exposure I ever had to these concepts of like legitimate vampires and like physical werewolves and like these crazy sounding topics. The first time I was ever exposed to these things was when I had just been crippled for 9 months by something called a band of warring demons. And the reason why I'm so confident in saying that this is the cause is because the month before I was exposed to these things in a very like blatant manner, which I'll say later, is
Mhm.
the month before these happened, I was literally tested. I had in the month of January of 2017, I had over 40 medical like test examinations, blah blah blah, like multiple times a week. I was getting tested by every medical thing under the sun,
Mhm.
because before that, the VA had ignored me for 6 months, and I was fed up with their bullshit. And so I literally, because I was crippled, in 9 months, I lost 35 pounds of muscle and I became a little fucking disgusting fat body. And
Hmm.
so after 6 months of the VA ignoring me, I literally took a wheelchair to the level 6 where all the executives were, and I just started yelling at people until they like served me. I was like, ah! I just yelled at people until they served me and like
Mhm.
stopped ignoring me. And after that first 6 months, I spent another 3 months of just like so many medical appointments. And what ended up happening is at the end of like an infinite amount, damn near, of medical appointments, there was no biological, physiological reason for me being crippled.
Could it have been mental?
And so after all these like physical tests had been done on me, what happened was I was like sitting on my bed in my room and I felt this like presence of this like black just like darkness around my heart. And within a couple of seconds of me perceiving this black darkness around my heart, I felt such a high level of pain. I almost instantly fell to the ground and I attempted screaming, but because I was in so much pain, only squeaks, like literal, like prepubescent squeaks, like squeaks came out.
Mhm.
And because that happened after the extensive medical tests I'd already been through, and like plus a couple of other things, I was like, holy shit, this is fucking spiritual. And literally, the second time that happened, I spent the next 24 hours deep diving into spiritual things that the Christian church doesn't fucking teach you.
Mhm.
And among the many things I learned over the next couple of years was the specific spiritual rituals to take a worshiper of Satan and turn them into a quote unquote vampire versus the spiritual ritual to specifically turn them into a quote unquote werewolf. And
And
turns out the specific difference is the specific runes in the coffin in which they're symbolically buried. It's dark as fuck, and there's so many like blood sacrifices. It's insane. And like when I was going through that, because of my vast confusion between killing all the people I did in Afghanistan and not knowing what the fuck was just crippling me, I looked into magic from all over the world and like at the like depth of my level of being deceived, I looked into sex magic from Ghana and like bestiality magic from Nigeria and like
Mhm.
because in my at the time when I was so deceived and just so confused, the various forms of African magic had a much more like, oh, you do this and then this happens kind of vibe.
Mhm.
And even though I now look back at those times, I'm like, whoa, I was so deceived. I was under demonic influences. Like, but at the time, it just seemed logical. And so as I moved through all of that, eventually I literally got demonically possessed. And after I got demonically possessed, that's kind of when God like blessed me with a wake up call. And
Mhm.
since that point, I've just been diving into as many perspectives as I can. So like what I mean by that is that I am wholeheartedly Christian. I like
Right.
Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior.
Mhm.
Period. That being
Mhm.
said, is there are some Hindu belief systems that are like, oh, what did Jesus do between the time he was 12 and 33? Did he travel to India? I don't believe that, but there are concepts on like what he possibly could have done. That's
Uh-huh.
interesting because their falsified spiritual beliefs have a kernel of truth in them. And so, because I've been to such dark places, I I guess have a better appreciation for various world beliefs that are not God honoring as I search for the kernels of truth. As like, where did this belief come from? Because if I can identify the kernel of truth in which this lie has come from, then that better equips me to lovingly approach someone who's a victim of that lie and draw them closer to Jesus Christ.
Right. So as far as the rune, first of all, the possession part, what exactly, if you're comfortable talking about that, what exactly was it? Can you define being possessed?
All right, so have you ever heard of the OtterBox?
The what?
The OtterBox, like that special like super armor for iPhones and shit.
No, I've never heard of that.
So this black like plastic casing around this like destruction of a phone is called
Hmm.
an OtterBox. And
Uh,
their marketing strategy is no matter what happens to your phone, the OtterBox will protect your phone. And so what happened to me was when I was possessed, my body was like, at first, so like at this time, I was crippled. I could not walk without a full body brace and a cane to walk. And when I was possessed, my body walked like 20 feet with zero assist, like physical assistance, no canes, no nothing, like demonic possession. And as I walked like 20 feet across this room, like this whole time in my mind, I was like, stop, stop, stop. What the fuck are you doing? Fucking stop. Like I was trying to get control of my body, but it was like physically impossible for me to do so. And that terrified me. And so as I was like shouting at myself to stop doing like what I was doing, I watched my physical body, like I had no control over myself. I watched my physical body take this cane that I just the day before I was using to walk. It I watched my body take this cane and beat this massive hole in the wall. And after I beat this hole in the wall, I noticed that there was blood everywhere. Like it looked like someone just got their throat slit, like blood everywhere. And I was so exhausted from beating the wall with this fucking cane, I just fell on the ground and I was just confused and I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And then I looked at my thumb, and when I looked at my thumb, it looked like it was the exit wound of a bullet hole. Like something had exploded out of my thumb, and that was the only wound I had on my body. And like I said before, there was blood fucking everywhere. And like that,
so
it was
what was
kind of
the
like
first what was the first thing you did after that? Did you
the
call 911? Did you what
no.
did you do?
The first thing I did after that was I took some toilet paper. I went to the bathroom. I took some toilet paper and I wrapped it around my thumb. And then I went on my fucking knees and I prayed to God and I bawled my goddamn eyes out.
Hmm.
Hours. Dude, I was fucking terrified. Like I've as
So
a Marine,
why?
I've
Here's my
literally
question. Why? Okay,
heard
so
50 caliber machine guns shooting at me. No fear, because I need to ensure my brothers still live.
uh,
I just described, I was so terrified, I bawled my eyes out for hours.
mhm. Right. So I guess kind of my question about that is if that was some form of demonic possession, the demonic entities, the demons, things like that, the devil, they're countering God. They're working against God. So, what happened to you there, there was no precision to it. It was reckless and it was uncalculated and it was clearly pushing you towards God, not away from God. Like nothing like that would ever push someone away from God. That would make someone stop dead in their tracks, as was demonstrated with you. So, why would a demonic force work indirectly to push you towards God?
So I would disagree with your original premise that whenever this sort of circumstance occurs, that automatically drives someone towards God due to the level of trauma. Because the vast majority of individuals, when they are exposed to this kind of trauma, their first reaction is not to lean on the Lord. The vast majority of individuals is, how did I fuck up? How can I correct this? Like, how can I stop these bad things happening? And when you lean upon the Lord, it's not so much a matter of how do I stop these things happening, but it's all right. The Lord my God is allowing these tribulations to come into my life. How can I learn from these circumstances? How can I best honor God in these troubling times? And so it's like one option is shit's going down. How do I honor God? How do I unfuck myself? Versus shit's going down. I'm a special boy. How do I get out of this situation? Two drastically different mindsets, you know?
Well, yeah, but when something like that happens, it's like the special, in my opinion, the special boy mentality would be dissolved very, very quickly. It's like, when you're being a naughty child and your parents spank you, and then like all of that pride and sneakiness and all that ego, I guess you could say, it just dissolves instantly, and you're like, oh, this is real, this is pain, I don't like it. So when someone has like a special boy egoistic mentality, like it's all about me and stuff like that, is just like kind of
So I
reckless,
totally
not
understand where you're
foresight.
coming from.
Yeah, and then something like that happens, and it's just like, oh, this is real. It's like, wouldn't that pride and all of that kind of just dissolve instantly?
So the baffling thing about that level of conflict is if the individual that is being exposed to that level of conflict, like, let's, for argument's sake, let's say their
Mhm.
ego is this level,
Mhm.
then hypothetically, they have the ability to humble themselves towards God. But the more their ego increases, the less likely the person that is exposed to this level of trauma is able
Mhm.
to be reliant upon God. The higher their ego increases, the more they are reliant upon themselves. The more once someone is reliant upon themselves, the more they fuck themselves.
Mhm. All right. Um, yeah, I guess so.
You know, like, I'm being very blunt,
Yeah, I know, I know,
and
I
I'm
know.
very appreciative that you're getting my blunt statements and making them more humane.
Uh-huh. I'm just trying to understand, I guess, because from in from my experience, when I have a certain level of pride, when it's more elevated, like the higher elevated it is, the more quickly it crashes down and the more it like feels like a void for a hot minute.
That's a very good point. And the reason why that happens is because as your pride increases, you become like at the core of your being, you want to honor God. And so as your pride increases, as that increases your self-esteem. And as your self-esteem increases, you are like, all right, God, am I in the proper heart space? Am I doing right? Am I doing wrong? Like, please lead me to honor you, Father God. And like, as your ego increases, as your self-confidence increases, you're constantly doing self-checks to maintain that you're in harmony with God. And people who are not as logos based as you, who do not respect God in the same way as you do, they don't have those same checks. As their ego increases, as their attitude increases, as their pride increases, they don't have those self checks to protect themselves in the laws of God. They're just like, oh, I'm great. Oh, I'm special. Oh, am I God now? Can I create things? Yes. Antifa, BLM. And
Hmm.
obviously, I'm making exaggerated, silly jokes, but
Hmm.
I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I do. Also, the next thing I was going to mention is the runes that you looked into. Do you actually have any sort of valid reason to assume that they're valid, that they're authentic, and that they truly do have some sort of foothold in reality, that they hold up and work, that they're real? Or is that just kind of that you've had other experiences with other forms of the same category of the occult and from that specific country? Or not at all? Just an assumption.
So I would say that there are a variety of spiritual experiences that one can have, and a lot of them are geographically specific.
Hmm.
That being said,
So,
is like I grew up in a quote unquote Christian nation. I went to a quote unquote demonic area, and even though through my experiences I was polluted, spiritually speaking, with a lot of demonic influences through the people I killed, through the experiences and things I saw, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't mean that the things I was exposed to are unforgivable. It doesn't mean that I cannot be redeemed from what I was exposed to. And I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but in a way it kind of is, because these drastically negative experiences or exposures uh, one can see is like all of those things can be negated by the blood of Christ, by the Holy Spirit. And
mhm.
to be quite honest, in the vast majority of cases, it's not. In the vast majority of cases, people are fucked up because what they've seen, what they've been exposed to, and then shit fucking goes down from that. But at the same time, there is nothing beyond the love of Christ. And
Mhm.
whatever, like, however traumatic the exposure you have, that doesn't mean that Romans 8:28 doesn't apply. It doesn't mean that God cannot use that for his own glory. It's just a matter
Right.
of being able to submit your pain and anguish to God so that he can use your pain and anguish to glorify himself. And I know that sounds backwards, but he's fucking awesome. It's just what he does.
Right. So how does that tie into the runes of like the coffin stuff and the
Say
rituals.
again?
So the my original question was the coffin and the runes and the rituals, the blood sacrifices, etc.
So
Like,
it's the exact opposite. Where
so what do you mean?
so let's say that I experience a very traumatic event.
Uh-huh.
I have, spiritually speaking, I have two paths.
Okay.
Either A, I can take the path towards God, or B, I can take the path towards Satan.
Uh-huh.
And the more you spiritually denigrate yourself, there is an increasing level of rituals that are more and more not inclusive, more and more
Intense.
exorbitant. Yeah, intense. Another good word. More and more intense, more and more exorbitant.
More and
Where,
more gay.
yeah, exactly, more gay. So to the point where, according to the sources that I've been exposed to, the specific spiritual like ritual that you need to do to become a quote unquote vampire is after you've already like worshipped Satan for a while, after you've done a bunch of like black masses and like other fucking shit, you and basically after you have desecrated your soul and sold your soul to the devil, then in order to become a vampire, you have to take a cedar box and like hand construct your own little cedar fucking coffin. And once you make the cedar coffin, you have to line the cedar coffin with, with velvet. After you line this, tons of burps. I apologize. After you line the cedar coffin with velvet, then you have to inscribe a specific set of runes on the inside of the coffin. After you line the coffin with the velvet, you inscribe the runes, then you have to lay down in the coffin, have it closed, and you have to lay down in the coffin for a minimum of 3 days.
Hmm.
According to the sources I've seen,
I've heard some things about you talk about them and it causes them to be like to attract to you. So maybe they're manifesting in you right now.
maybe, but then
Like
you
on
fuck
at a
yourself.
microscopic level, you have a bunch of their cells. The cells are evolving. They're evolving. Yep.
Dude, I've literally like camped in Native American grounds and through biblical passages cursed the Native American spirits and like in the land and like bless the land in like biblical terms to the point
Uh-huh.
where I went to bed. It was green springtime grass everywhere. I woke up the next morning. There was nothing on the forecast of the temperature or weather or whatever. I woke up the next morning, 6 inches of snow. And as I was like sleeping or trying to sleep in the night, I heard some sort of creature circling around my car. Like, dude, I've seen and experienced all sorts of crazy spiritual shit. So, like, hiccups, no big deal. No one gives a fuck. But,
That is spooky. Go more
oh
into
yeah, dude,
detail about
super
that.
spooky.
What exactly did you see circling around your car? Describe it. Go into more detail about that specific
We have
experience.
15 seconds left, so we're gonna have to continue this later. because I don't
Alright.
want to go to the 4th hour. But to answer your question,